I was in shock and disbelief and numb. There are no words to describe the immense pain his actions have caused our family and friends. He brutally kidnapped and murdered my daughter, my baby. He locked her in the car without any way to escape and tore her apart. He stole my chance of even identifying her body in the morgue due to the amount of torture he put her through. Your Honor, I beg of you, I plead of you to deny bail.
No one deserves to lose their sister, daughter, or friend in the merciless way that I lost Sammy. No one deserves to constantly relive finding out that one sister was violently taken from them, and my mind constantly replays that moment when my dad called sobbing as my knees buckled under me and I fell to the floor. One way to prevent another person from this constant nightmare that is now our life is to ensure that this man remains incarcerated and without bail.
This monster kidnapped and brutally murdered the love of my life. It wasn't accidental, nor a product of panic. It was orchestrated and carried out by a truly evil human being. I ask you today, justice be served for my beloved Sammy. I ask that you deny his bond request as he is a danger to everyone around him. What will happen when his thirst to kill strikes again?
Judge, you would have loved her. She made everyone smile and laugh. This monster animal has taken Samantha Josephson away from all of us. To stab someone over 30 times and brutally kill a defensive 21-year-old non-threatening female is a monster, a danger to kill again.
Knowing him coming up and basically spending most of our time together, even after he left college, and the goals that he has set for himself, the things that he wants out of life, does not remotely come close to alleged charges that he's being accused of. We stand behind him 100% because we do believe that he is innocent. We do believe that he's not capable of even doing such what he's being accused of. We do ask the court for mercy. We do send our prayers to the family, and we can't remotely imagine what they're going through.
I'm the mother of Nathaniel Rowland, and like my oldest son have said, there's no way that he could have done this, what they're accusing him of. As a child, he loved everyone. He gets along with everyone. He do what he can for everyone. He's a very respectful man. And I can't see my child do anything like that, harm anyone. He never have harmed anyone. Never. And I thank you all so much for hearing me.
I've listened to everyone this morning, the officers, the state, the defense. This court makes a finding for purposes of this hearing that the defendant presents a danger to the community. And for that reason, the court denies the defendant's motion for bond at this time.
So in this case, prosecutors say they have a lot of forensic evidence, and the crime scene is the vehicle that she got into. She thought she was getting into a ride share. She was not getting into a ride share. That's the prosecution theory. I spoke with Elizabeth Franklin Best, great criminal defense attorney and appellate attorney in South Carolina, and she outlined a couple of the issues that the defense may be going after in their defense of Nathaniel Rowland. Take a listen.
We know that there were cleaning supplies found in the car. We still don't know exactly who purchased them. We know that there was a knife that was located, but from my understanding, that knife was not found in Mr. Rowland's house or his apartment, but in some sort of associate. So, I mean, who is that person? How did that gun get, or how did that knife get there? We also know that somebody attempted to use her ATM card on a couple of different occasions. I mean, what do we know about that? Who may have been responsible for that?
All right, let's bring back in the think tank. Still with us, Eklund Mercy, Nima Romani, and Kirk Nurmi. Eklund, let me begin with you. The crime scene, the murder scene, is his car. I mean, his defense has to be that someone took his car and committed the murder. Did Eklund hear me?
Yeah, now I do. So sorry, sir.
That's okay. Eklund, the murder scene,
Yes.
the crime scene is his car. What's his defense? I mean, his defense has to be that someone took his car.
So, yeah, but let him have it. That was a bond hearing. I don't know why was any of that allowed. The fact that it was a bond, we're just saying, can he do bond? Is he going to stay there? Is he going to commit other crimes? Will he threaten any witnesses? You're letting his family testify at a bond hearing is not reasonable. That should not have been done. And then you have his family just putting out there that he didn't do it. Like, we need to investigate. The purpose of that hearing was merely to see if he could make bond. And I didn't see any evidence besides the evidence that is supposed to be argued at trial saying that he can't be let out on bond. They didn't give him any criminal history. I didn't hear that being presented. All I heard was the facts in the case, and that's for a jury to decide. So I don't know what that was, and I don't know how that judge got that conclusion.
Kirk Nurmi, I'm looking at this case. The crime scene is the defendant's vehicle. Come on. Someone's got to steal his car or take his car and commit this murder in his car, because that's where it happened.
I agree, Vinny. Ultimately, that's it. We see this car on surveillance. We see this poor victim get into this car. And you're right, the crime scene is right there in the car. Now, we heard in the earlier segment this talk about cleaning products in the car. To me, that's not exculpatory. That shows maybe there's an evidence of premeditation, that whoever was behind the wheel of this car, whoever was doing this, is in fact planning to do exactly what they did. So you're right, Vinny. I think it comes down to this very narrow defense, this idea, this potential that it wasn't his car. But that's really probably not much of a strong defense in this case.
All right, Neiman, I want you to listen to one more piece of what Elizabeth Franklin Best told us. Again, South Carolina criminal defense attorney, knows this case. And she mentioned something about a potential alibi here.
When you start to really kind of look at the case a little more deeply, I mean, there still are a number of questions that are outstanding, and some of which, I mean, I'm sure that the defense counsel is going to address during the actual trial. But one thing I would really want to know about is kind of the viciousness of the crime. I mean, I think everyone can understand that this is not really kind of like a garden variety sort of murder case. The viciousness suggests, did they have some sort of relationship? Did they know one another? I mean, it almost seems personal. It also makes you wonder whether or not there might have been drugs involved. We also know that the family of Mr. Rowland has, been very kind of upfront and out in front of cameras, giving him an alibi. Apparently, Mr. Rowland told them that he had been at a party that evening, that he had passed out, somebody had taken his keys. So who are these people? I mean, to what extent has this been investigated?
Not love like that ever again. And it's because of the defendant standing right there. He took all that from me, and the constant anguish and sadness that I see this family and everyone here that you see behind me, and even more. The pain that they have to endure every day, the texts that I get at 3 a.m. that someone's afraid to get into their Uber. They call me to sit on the phone with them until they get home. That constant paranoia that's instilled in them every day because of this man. And probably many other young females and males out there as well that are out drinking and just trying to have a good time. I just reiterate all that he's taken. You've seen the sadness this week and last week. I would ask for the strictest sentence possible. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the state at this time?
No, sir. That's all the state has.
All right. By the defense.
If it please the court, Your Honor, if you would hear from Nathaniel Rowland's mother first.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Family. Is there anything you would like to say?
Your Honor, I know I'm innocent. But I guess what I know and what I think really doesn't matter. I just wish the state would have done more in finding out who the actual person was, instead of being satisfied with detaining me and proving my guilt. I feel like if they would have done further research in certain areas, that's all I got.
And I've sentenced a number of murderers, many of whom have confessed, and I asked them, tell me about the murder. Tell me about the time you pulled the trigger. And I have yet to have one who could go back there. Everyone, each of them, have blotted the whole thing out of their mind as if it never occurred. And they can't take their mind back there sufficient to tell me. And I imagine they live in torment the rest of their days because they can't. The evidence in this case was, I chose the word an avalanche of evidence, and now I've seen it repeated a few times. I've heard it repeated. But the evidence in this case was so overwhelming. The law enforcement in this case did the best job of investigating a case that I have seen over the past 30 or 40 years. Every law enforcement officer that was available participated apparently in working in this case. And if there were 1,000 roads, each road led to you. There's 1,000 trails, each trail led to you. All of the evidence, every speck of the evidence, not simply beyond a reasonable doubt, but as high a standard as the law requires, all points to your guilt. And I am absolutely satisfied. I can certainly understand the family being in total disbelief that the child that they raised could do such a heinous thing, could commit such a murder. And I have dealt with the heartless, and you fall into that category. A person without any remorse whatsoever. A person who is totally emotionless, and in the law we call it a depraved heart. And it would be absolutely astonishing, amazing to me for the truth to be that you have engaged in this activity all of a sudden. That there are not signs that your family can point to, that your friends can point to, where if some intervention had taken place, this young lady would have been protected. I don't know that. But as much as your mom feels in the bottom of her soul or pit of her stomach about you, I feel that same thing based on my experience and based on my observing you. and witnessing the evidence in this case. So I want to thank the jury for your focus on this case. I noticed that you all were totally engaged and tuned. Thank you very much on behalf of the citizens of Richland County and the citizens of the state of South Carolina. And South Carolina is a wonderful state, a lovely place, and people from all over the country, particularly the Northeast, choose South Carolina because of its beauty and charm and people, and Columbia for all of the same reasons, because we live in such a wonderful state, such a diverse state, where there are opportunities for everyone, and certainly opportunities for you. And for you to have attended South Carolina State University, if your parents have given you as much as they gave you, and for you then, your life story to end right here at this point in time. Of course, your life story doesn't end, but this is certainly a stop along the way. It is a tragedy. And whatever tragedy that causes these demons to reside within your soul and spirit, I don't know. Maybe at one point in time, since this is not a death penalty case, they can be exorcised out of you. Mr. Goldberg made his closing argument and talked about, in the end, the consequences that would have had to exist in order for this not to be you. That someone would have had to steal your car, steal your car keys, kidnap Samantha, kill her with your tool, then bury her in your home territory, then miraculously get the car back to you in time for you to go to the ATM in Sumter and here in Columbia. Then turn over your car back to you with all the blood throughout it, all of Samantha's blood except for several teaspoons. And the story goes on and on. The evidence is so substantial in this case, pointing to your guilt. And I emphasize that and re-emphasize it because of the horrific and most brutal nature of this crime. It could not be worse. It's the most severe murder that has occurred that I have been a witness to as far as presiding in court or participating in as a lawyer. And for whomever asked me for leniency, that's not part of my DNA. I have two daughters, one of whom sit in this seat more often than I do, and another of whom live in a city who have to encounter people on a daily basis. And I have sons. I would like to think I know my sons and my daughters very well. Certainly, I would be in disbelief if any of them were to find themselves standing in a spot like you. But even more so, the terror imposed on their child and the pain and grief that you have caused. She was an amazing person, an amazing human being, and the testimony is here. And she obviously put up an amazing fight against you and left a sufficient trail for the jury to see what you did. Now, you're not a dumb person. You're not an unintelligent person. You've been educated, trained, and you have a degree of intelligence. You certainly have the ability to choose a different course. But there's no perfect crime. These days, with forensic evidence, your whole 24 hours was recreated almost minute by minute, mile by mile, digit by digit. That's led you here, and you've now been found guilty. And sentencing in this case is not difficult. The sentence in this case is easy, though painful it may be. The sentence of the court for murder is that you be committed to the State Department of Corrections for life. Any other sentence that can be imposed will be concurrent with life. Since you only have one life, that sentence must be served for the remaining days of your natural life. That's the sentence of the court.